Hello, everybody. Good evening or good morning, wherever you are. Thanks for tuning in to this event. This is What's in China, the top 3 tech trends for hospitality. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you some trends that are going on in China and how they might be affecting the hospitality industry both here in China and around the world. Firstly, I'd like to thank PropTech Asia for inviting me to come speak at this event. This is the first digital online event that I'm speaking at, so it's exciting to try this new format and share with you all today. Today we're going to be going over a few different things. First, I'm going to give everybody a little bit of context in terms of what's going on in China, some macro trends that'll help us understand the smaller digital tech trends a little bit better. Then we're going to be going into the 3 largest tech trends that I see going on right now. We're going to compare them to the West a little bit to see how they might be different and how similar ideas play out differently in different parts of the world. And then we're also going to be connecting that to the hospitality industry to say how these trends might be used in hospitality to benefit hotel operators, management, and also property owners as well. So I'm hoping that you can walk away from today with a better understanding of what trends are going on in China and how that might spread to the rest of the world. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Brian Hirsh. I'm an American entrepreneur, and I've been living here in Shenzhen, China for over 4 years now. I actually moved here because of consumer IoT hardware. Originally, I was working in the US, but the company I was at was bought by Google back in 2014. So I wanted to learn more about how hardware was being made. So I moved to Shenzhen, China, which is where most of the hardware is being produced right now, at least in IoT consumer tech. From there, I stayed with the company I was working at for another few years before leaving to start Brightwood, and we focus on digital experience management platforms. So that's why I'm interested in hospitality, and that's why I'm sharing with you about hospitality today. Before we go in, I want to tell you a short little story. I was actually meeting with a few government officials, and I was talking with them about why I moved to China, and I told them that 我想明白中国, which means I want to understand China, I want to know China. And they told me, 不, no, you can't understand China. No one can understand China. You can only learn about it. So keep all of these trends in context. Things change very rapidly here. As soon as you think that you understand one thing, everything will change and a new trend will be taking over. So here's just what I've seen right now. Those 3 trends that I want to cover are firstly, mobile only. In China, it's no longer an option to offer a mobile solution. In fact, you shouldn't even be worried about what's happening on a computer. You should first and foremost and almost exclusively focus on mobile devices. Next, we're going to be talking about IoT hardware, both inside hospitality and more broadly, how is it changing and how is it going to be affecting the industry. And finally, we're going to talk about digital commerce. Right now, there are so many opportunities that are opening up for hospitality companies to earn more revenue and to benefit and provide a better experience for their guests. And so this is an incredibly important area. Before we dive in, let's cover a little bit of the backdrop of last year. So of course, coronavirus has been going around the entire world, and in China, that's been no different. Of course, early in last year, around February and April, there were large lockdowns across most of the country. So the Marriott occupancy rate sunk below 10% at that time across their 350 hotels around China. During that time, the Chinese government response was a little bit different from other countries. They very quickly introduced new WeChat mini programs to allow people to track the cases around them and also to register to enter their home. So on the left here, this app is a screenshot of an app I was using that would let me see the cases of coronavirus around where I was right now. On the right, and that app was updated maybe either daily or hourly. On the right, this is actually when I first needed to register to enter my apartment building. So you originally had to enter this information, get your temperature scanned, and let them know that you're living here and that you'll be safe. Of course, after you've registered in this app, whenever you open it, it'll show you a QR code that'll be green if you've only been traveling to areas that are designated as safe. If you went somewhere more dangerous, then it would be yellow, and then eventually red if it was very dangerous. So people would routinely ask to see this app before you enter a place. And still some places today will ask you to show it. Later that year, around June, there started being lots of promotions to increase the travel here in China. Of course, the airlines were struggling and they wanted to increase their sales, but this actually helped a lot of younger people travel a little bit more. So lots of airlines were offering unlimited travel tickets. You could buy for 6 months or a year, depending on the airline, and travel wherever you wanted, as much as you wanted, within some limitations. So Dragon Boat Festival was the first holiday in China that people were considering whether or not to travel. It takes place in the end of June of last year, and 78% of travelers were under the age of 40. Now, keep in mind that normally during these holidays, people go back to their hometown to visit their relatives. So you would expect that more people would be younger, but this is definitely mostly young people in this case. Most of the people were traveling for leisure, and at this time, the occupancy rate for Marriott was about 60% of what it was the year before. So a lot better than it was in some other countries, but not quite where they wanted it to be. But at the time, they were still very hopeful. We can see in these trends that that travel is starting to be going up around March and April. Still not where it was last year, but international travel has remained very low, of course. So Marriott at this time was very hopeful. They were saying that they thought that by the end of, or sometime this year, 2021, that travel would be back to normal as it was before. So far, it hasn't panned out. There was actually a little bit of a flare-up back in January that caused very large lockdowns in northern China. So tens of millions of people were on lockdown, and of course, this was in preparation for Chinese New Year, which is the most important holiday of the entire year. The entire country goes to go see their family, and there's about 2 weeks off for vacation, longer in some other industries. For example, factory workers have up to a month off, but usually around 3 weeks. So incredibly important time. Other larger demographic changes in China. First off, of course, the population is aging. This is putting more importance on IoT devices, which we'll talk about later. And also, there's been a lot of government investment in travel, specifically around cultural travel areas, which are either older areas or sometimes also new development that highlight the culture of a region that bring travelers to a different area of China. So now let's dive into the tech trends that are going on in China. First one we're going to talk about is mobile only. Of course, everybody knows about mobile payments in China. They are incredibly popular. In fact, I can say that I have not had my wallet for completely the last 4 years. But even some time before that, when I was coming on business trips, I already would just leave my wallet in my apartment or hotel when I was visiting here. So right now, about 80% of Chinese who have smartphones use mobile payments. And of course, almost 575 million people, or a little bit over 575 million people, are using either WeChat Pay or Alipay. You might also not know that there are some cultural rules around mobile payments. For example, if you are a higher-end establishment, if you are a more reputable company, then you're going to want to scan other people's QR code as opposed to having them scan your QR code. So here in this first picture, someone's paying for something by scanning the merchant's QR code. And in the second picture, the restaurant is actually scanning somebody else's. So at Starbucks, even McDonald's, you would definitely expect to see this kind of, this method of payment. The most important part of the mobile ecosystem right now is certainly WeChat mini programs. All of the apps that are in the US would really be mini programs in China. The difference between an app and a mini program is that an app is very, very annoying to download. You have to download it, you have to search for it and find it, and there's some sign-up process. With WeChat mini programs, you just open WeChat and click the scan QR code. You scan something, and then instantly you have something that feels like an app. Of course, many brands are using it right now, and it's become increasingly popular since 2016 when it was released. Right now, games are very popular on there, but probably most of the mini programs you interact with day to day are other tools, or at least me. Mini chat programs can cover all different facets of the app. So for example, the Starbucks app has ordering, delivering, giving people gifts. Also, your membership card is in the program as well. Now, another advantage of mini programs over native apps is that you can choose where people enter your app. On top of that, you can also make multiple smaller mini programs that have only the functionality needed there. So for example, with McDonald's, if you scan their WeChat mini program when you're entering the restaurant, you can get some functionality that's more centered around ordering your food right now. Whereas if you scan somewhere else, you might get functionality that's around gift cards or delivery, or this birthday club. I guess I haven't tried that one. So it's a little bit more flexible than native apps. You can see this is WeWork here in China. I guess I'm covering the image a little bit, but you can see there's actually a QR code right next to the door. And scanning this will open the WeWork mini program where your account is linked, and it will automatically open the door. Of course, you don't need to scan the QR code every time you go there. You can actually just save the mini program on your phone, inside of WeChat, and open it to open the door whenever you need to enter. It's not just private companies that are opening these apps as well. So actually, these two screens I showed you before are actually government-made and issued WeChat mini programs. So the government does this for all sorts of different things. So actually, I was at the tax office a couple of months ago, and I was surprised because they told me to scan this WeChat mini program to register and put in my initial information before dealing with them at the window. So the government has also been implementing WeChat mini programs, which might surprise people back home. So what are the opportunities for hospitality with these new WeChat mini programs? Of course, the most obvious is to increase upsell and cross-sell opportunities. There are many opportunities for guests to buy and make more purchases inside of these WeChat mini programs. So a lot of hotels are bringing that functionality in to increase their revenue. Next, of course, they're looking to get around OTA booking fees. So in this WeChat mini program, you can allow people to book your hotel, which of course can save you those fees. Of course, it's more efficient for the hotel staff and more convenient for the hotel guests. So guests can be lying on their bed after a long day's work. They come back and they want to order some food. Instead of going to find their menu and making a phone call to the front desk, they can just take their phone, which they're probably already using, open the WeChat mini program and place an order right there. So very easy and simple. In China right now, your WeChat mini program is the most valuable owned channel that you have. So how is hospitality using it? First off, bookings, which I mentioned before, ordering amenity and services, making dinner reservations, even communicating with guests back and forth. So it really is a multi-purpose tool that can be used for many different aspects of the hospitality experience. So now let's dive into the second topic, IoT hardware. So IoT hardware in general is helping people connect with a space around them. I first want to talk about the most controversial piece of IoT hardware, and that's facial recognition. Of course, a lot of this is software driven as well, but I included it in here. So around China, facial recognition is used all over. I actually interact with facial recognition on a daily basis. The office that I work at has facial recognition at the entrance that will open up the gates for you. I'm not sure if you can actually choose not to do that, but I imagine there is a way, or you could have the person at the front gate always open it for you. In China, though, it's incredibly common to see this nowadays. Airport security, office access, train stations, elevators, vending machines, all have the ability to use your face to either pay for things or authenticate who you are. Of course, facial recognition has trade-offs. There is a privacy concern with facial recognition. In general, in China, the acceptance is much higher than it is, at least back home in America. And the integration of this facial recognition is generally less controversial than it is in other areas. Now, that is not to say that it isn't controversial here in China as well. So actually, there have been multiple cases where, um, for example, up in Shanghai, there was a community that was implementing facial recognition to enter the housing area. And one person that lived there just said no, and they actually filed a lawsuit to get refunded for their fees about these changes, and then also to have the property owners also allow him to use a key card to enter. So in China, it also can be controversial. My personal feeling, though, is that this technology is going to become universally accepted in the not-too-distant future. I think that's for a few reasons. The first is that the reality of our world right now is that people are being recorded everywhere anyway. The only difference is that now that recording actually helps your life be a little bit more convenient. The second is that I think that eventually we'll figure out ways to make this data a little bit more secure and have a little bit more clarity around how the data is being used, when it can't be used, when it must be destroyed. So I think that in the future this will be daily interactions that we will have around the world. Nextly, we have in-room devices. So these devices are mainly centered around comfort, convenience, also to be able to control them with your phone or your voice inside the hotel room. So what are these devices? So first off, you have smart access control, being able to enter the hotel. Of course, you have intelligent door lock. So once you get to the hotel room, you can unlock it with your phone. You've got intelligent lighting control, so the lights can change different moods, so you can relax or get your work done. Your curtains, air conditioning, TV, all of it can be connected to your phone app or to your WeChat mini program. So these, of course, are the more obvious choices and not necessarily new to China. I think the interfaces are a little bit different in China than they would be over in the West. Of course, language control is also very popular in China. In China, the language control needs to be Chinese, but desk smart speakers are very popular as well. Of course, the breakdown of the smart devices is different. So actually, if you look globally, in America, we think of either Google Home or Amazon, also Apple HomeKit with Siri. But globally, the Chinese companies aren't doing too poorly either. Actually, in 2019, they had a larger percentage of the market than American companies did. If you look exclusively in China, Alibaba, Xiaomi, and Baidu are the most popular voice assistants around. You can also see that it's changing over time. Finally, there's some tech around the hotel. So these are mainly robots. So robots are great for efficiency, convenience, but mainly it's about the wow factor right now. People enjoy interacting with these little robots. They can give you some directions and greet you. Some of them can dance. And so far, that's been the best application of robots, in my opinion. But they are also becoming integrated into the actual operations a little bit more. The best example is food delivery. So sometimes you have these standing up robots that either customers can take the food themselves or waiting staff walk with the robot and then deliver it to you. But also there have been some different takes on food delivery as well. So on the left, this is a restaurant, Hema, which is opened by Alibaba, where these little robots will go around on that railing in the middle there, and you can pick up your food and eat it. So it's kind of like the sushi bars with the conveyor belt, except with robots. And on the right, we have an experiment that KFC ran, where they had a delivery mobile going around and giving people their food. Robots are also being used for sanitation, some food preparation. On the left, this is making beverages, and then on the right, this is making ice cream. So robots are being used in a lot of different places, but at this point, the biggest benefit is kind of the wow factor. They still are quite expensive, especially in China. In other markets, they make a little bit more financial sense, but in China, it's still a little bit for fun. So let's talk about digital commerce. Last year was a great year for digital commerce. Normal commerce grew 4% overall, but e-commerce specifically grew 21% last year. So of course, this has been a trend that's been going on for a while. But e-commerce is a little bit different in China than it is over in the West. So first off, you've probably heard of TikTok. In China, it's called Douyin. They're technically separate companies. Um, but Douyin in China has already integrated shopping into the experience. So here on the left, you can see, I guess, a young woman kind of showing off some new fashion trends. But if you're watching her video, you can actually click the button on the screen and then see what she's wearing. Sometimes this is done through AI recognition, but other times this is done manually. And from the app, you can go to Taobao, a popular place to buy things, and purchase those items. So this has actually become quite a large market. So Douyin last year sold over almost $3 billion of merchandise on Singles Day. Now, I believe that the total Singles Day was not on this slide, but maybe like 30 billion or something like that. So still a small portion, but still growing very rapidly. The next trend is these virtual assistants. So this is actually a piece of the Taobao app, which is a popular shopping app. It actually has a dancing character that can talk with you and suggest different items that you might want to buy. So apps and mini programs, they are your most important channel because in China no one uses email and blogs. So incredibly important to have a strong presence on these apps. Of course, with e-commerce, you need to think a little bit outside the box in China. Chinese consumers are very, very flexible, and they are okay trying new things. And in some circumstances, they are more price sensitive, so they will try things that we might not spend as much time doing over in the US. So one of the most popular trends lately has been group buying. So group buying are, you can think most similar to Groupon, but actually what happens is that there is a platform that coordinates larger orders of different food items, specifically perishable goods, so fruits, vegetables. So what happens is that one person in an apartment complex will become the seller of items for that platform. Other people in the apartment complex can open their app, order food. All of that food will be delivered to that representative, and then that representative will either deliver it or sometimes the people come and pick it up. Actually, that part is very kind of open-ended. People will figure out how to get the food delivered themselves, but it's mainly decentralized system. Of course, some people that do this enjoy it for different reasons. So the actual community residents, they don't make a lot of money from doing this. But they actually enjoy it because it's also social. So there are stories of people that become these community sellers that enjoy meeting everybody in their new building, especially if they moved somewhere. It's very useful. So interesting. This has actually been growing very rapidly. Right now it's 125 billion RMB, which is ballpark of $20 billion, a little bit less. But recently it's been getting a little bit of pushback from the government. There are some competitive practices that the government wants to slow down a little bit. So there have been some changes in regulation. It's also been more popular in lower tier cities. In China, the cities are all tiered. So first tier is Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Guangzhou. Second tier would be Xi'an, Chengdu, some other cities like this. There are 16 tier 2 cities, and then the rest of the cities are tier 3, 4, or lower. Actually, after 4, there's nothing lower. It's just another place. But even this report is a little bit skewed. Most of the purchasing is at least in tier 2. So what are the opportunities for hospitality? How might they be able to apply this? The first is that hospitality should think more about engaging with guests directly. In the U.S., we have email and blogs, which you're sending someone an email, but in China, people are expecting you to chat with them, to talk with them. So there are more opportunities to build a one-on-one relationship with a brand in China. First of all, secondly, there are cheaper owned channels in China. So, your apps, your mini programs, your space on different app platforms. For example, maybe jumping into Bilibili would be a great opportunity for your brand. The opportunities are much broader than they are elsewhere and much more important. And then finally, there are lots of opportunities to upsell and cross-sell. You should think of your guest as someone who you're engaging with, and you can find multiple value propositions to provide to them once they're already at your facility or before. I think one note of warning is that before you jump into different digital communities, whether it's a different app, you should be cognizant of that community's culture. For example, the Bilibili culture that I mentioned before, it's one of the rising stars here. Is generally a little bit tech-centric, a little bit kind of creative, and you should understand what the community is like before trying to enter it. In the same way that you may want to know if you're going to a company that only wears business suits, you're going to want to know that before you go. Same with jumping into different apps. You don't want to show up in flip-flops and a t-shirt, right? So I think right now the most important point is that ideas are going back and forth. I'm sure a lot of the ideas in this presentation you've seen some of over in the US or over in Europe, but the way that Chinese use them and change them is a little bit different. So it's important to watch how ideas bounce back and forth to get a little bit of an idea about what you might be able to make next. So thank you everybody for listening to this presentation. Of course, if you'd like to reach me, ask more questions, if you're interested in digital guest experiences, please, you can scan my QR code. Of course, you can also reach me an email. My email is brian.hirsh@brightwood.ai. That's brightwood, all one word, .ai. All right, thanks everybody. Have a good one. Bye-bye.